very good afternoon to one all present here. Thank you again for joining us on the day 2 of our webinar series themed the status of indigenous population in India. Yesterday we had Father Lenin Anthony, who spoke from the NGO point of view and as a social worker, how exactly they are trying to contribute towards indigenous development, and also he highlighted about the importance of tribal communities. Today we have with us Dr. Srikanth, and he shall be speaking to us from the point of view as a tribal worker, and the point of view of being a director of a non-profit organization. What is his experience of looking at tribal rights and the constitutional provisions that are being provided to the tribes in the country? And Sir has very vast experience, and we are very happy to have Dr. Srikanth with us here. I would invite Ms. Deekshita Nagaraj to introduce the resource person for the day.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Myself, Deekshita, would like to introduce our speaker for the day, Dr. Srikanth. Dr. Srikanth hails from an agricultural family in Gunjalgodu, Asan. He has completed his primary education in his own village, high school in Ole Narsipura, BSc from Asan, and later studied MSW from Roshni Nilaya, Mangaluru. Now is the director of Deed Unsur, a non-profit organization working for the development of tribal community. He has traveled to Europe, America, Africa, and has done a research on social development in institution from Canada. Coming from a farming background, this son of soil loves agriculture, is interested in growing trees and working towards conservation of the environment. He takes keen interest in strengthening the power of Gram Panchayats. He has done a research on self-rule of the Adivasis and constitutional democracy and has submitted a thesis. Hampi Kannada University has honored him with doctorate in the year 2015. He is interested in many fields and has done achievements like developmental activities with the Adivasi communities, strengthening the Gram Panchayat, demand of starting a rural university or Adivasi Central University in Unsur, personality development training, education of Adivasi children and midday meals, the land and forest rights of Adivasi and encouragement given to agriculture. He has also written and published many articles for the past 36 years. Some of them are Adivasi Parliament, Naisargika Sampanmoolagalu, Adivasi Budget, Adivasi Abhivruddhi, Parisara Rakshane, Panchayat Raj Balavardhane, etc. He is recognized for his leading article on the disappearance of Adivasis. He has organized skill training program for over 126 Adivasi youth in computer, driving, tailoring, and placing them in the jobs. Without any delay, I invite Dr. Srikanth, Director of Deed Unsur, to share his expertise with us. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Dr. Srikanth, you are muted. You need to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Okay. So I'm happy that now St. Joseph College has invited me for this webinar. I congratulate the MSW department for having taken up this issue. It's a very important issue in the country. And also congratulate the people who have joined this webinar, almost 84 people. It's for me an opportunity to share my feelings, what Adivasis are facing in the country. So I will share in such a way that I will speak a little bit about the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People by the United Nations. and the constitutional provisions of India, in Indian constitutional provisions, and certain laws which are against tribal rights, and certain laws which are favoring tribal rights, and also kind of action we have taken up in this area. So like this, I want to say a few words about all these things. Is that okay? See, tribal people in India, we say tribal people, scheduled tribes, but in general, in the worldwide, we call indigenous people. So indigenous people have very positive feeling, positive connotation, because they are the first people. In India, the word indigenous has not been accepted by the state government of India, but our government of India called them as scheduled tribes. The scheduled tribes in India constitute a fairly good size of the population, about 9 crores, nearly 9 crores. This population spread in 3 important areas, particularly northeast, which is called tribal area, and central India is called scheduled area, and other states have this ITDPs, ITDA, like general tribal programs like that. The tribal administration has been divided in 3 categories. One is in scheduled area, 6 scheduled area, this tribal area, the village councils and district councils are, they have autonomous bodies. They have the complete control over their resources and culture and all their rights. Whereas in scheduled area, it's a little mild intervention is there from the state. Whereas in tribal area, only President of India can intervene for their if there's any something to say about their self determination, President can intervene. But whereas in 5th schedule area, the government can intervene. But now, after enactment of PESA, the provisions of the Panchayats Extension to Scheduled Areas Act in 96, the Gram Sabha, traditional Gram Sabha of Adivasis have been empowered. The Gram Sabha is enjoying a lot of powers. It is like Parliament enjoys supreme power, state assemblies enjoy supreme powers. Similarly, as far as Adivasi concern, the traditional Gram Sabhas also enjoy powers. That is the greatness of the PESA Act. So this PESA Act is made applicable to 5th scheduled area. So whereas other parts of India like Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, these areas, we don't have scheduled areas or tribal areas. It's called only ITDPs or ITDAs, Integrated Tribal Development Areas or ITDP Tribal Development Projects. So ITDP area is ITDP projects is a kind of we have a district coordinator which coordinates with different departments. Whereas administration area, ITDA area, as a one agency will be there to facilitate all aspects of tribal life. So in that way, the South Indian tribes are deprived of their traditional, constitutionally guaranteed rights, that is self-determination. If you look at the United Nations declarations in September 13, 2007, it's fairly very nice articulation has been done. The right to self-determination has been recognized. The political status, economic, social and cultural development need to be taken up according to the wish of the people, tribal people. And protection of indigenous culture is prominent. Protecting their dialect, protecting their traditional knowledge, traditional wisdom, natural resources, their livelihood resource base, things like that. Right to, and also it recognizes right to maintain, control and develop their cultural heritage, their natural resources, the forest. This also has been totally recognized. and revitalizing the culture, tribal culture and traditions, customs has been recognized. So that means the tribal rights in different aspects has been recognized, and each of the country which has the membership of United Nations, United Nations of United Nations, they will have to protect all these rights of Adivasis in their respective countries. Apart from that, the cultural space, there are some cultural specifics are there. To educate the tribal community, it is not the dominant community it should force on Adivasis their culture, their values, their value system, their lifestyle and all. But it is revitalizing tribal culture is as important as providing education in their own lifestyle. So they will have to be allowed to develop their education system, particularly the cultural standards, and establish their own institutions to carry on their lifestyle and control over their resources and traditional wisdom, and recreate their history. Rewrite their history and all these things. But whereas the universities, in general, universities of different nations not really respecting this resolution, because most of the universities teach the sociology and anthropology and economics and psychology of a different community, not from Adivasi communities. So that means in a way it is a kind of force on the Adivasi youth to learn in university these unknown issues of other communities. And also the another important thing is the right to dignity and diversity is also respected in United Nations declarations. So right to dignity and right to diversity is very, very important in tribal culture, because in India itself there are about 700 tribal communities, and out of that 32 are specially privileged tribal groups. Now they call them as particularly vulnerable tribal groups. So the particularly vulnerable tribal groups are in their natural habitats, depending on food gathering. So if for reasons, like for example, their natural habitat has been declared as national park or wildlife area or tiger habitat, things like that, the Wildlife Act 1972 will not respect their traditional rights. But the people who are implementing these forest rights, particularly the Wildlife Act, they don't respect these laws, and they are displacing tribals, like sending the dog out of the house, like that. So their traditional rights have not been respected by the implementers of the Wildlife Protection Act. So therefore, all over India, wherever the national parks have been declared, either in the name of tiger reserve or elephant reserve or any animal reserves, so these many people have lost their traditional rights, though United Nations has recognized the indigenous people's rights, and which India has also accepted these rights. But what is positive in recent days because of all this development is the constitutional provisions of the provisions in India have been started respecting. See, for example, in Indian Constitution, Article 371 really it is to safeguard the tribal population in India, whether it's in Northeast or in Central India or spread all over in different states of India. The self-determination, protection of tribal culture, customs, land rights, forest rights, and traditional wisdom. This is the special provision in the Constitution 371. This is for tribal self-determination. Under this, 6th schedule area has been declared in Northeast, particularly Mizoram, Tripura, Assam, and these are some of the states there. There they have, as I said earlier, they have district autonomous council, and they will also have village councils, which helps the district council to administer tribal area and their manage their resources, and also practice their traditions and whatever practice they have been doing all these years. Whereas the scheduled areas, some areas are known as scheduled areas, is under 5th schedule. The 5th schedule is mild administration by the state, and some respect is also given to tribal communities. And this called article provisionary rights they have given. Earlier there was no Gram Sabha given proper rights, and only district level body was given some provisions. Now, after the enactment of the Provisions of the Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act, based on the Delhi Stream Bhuria Committee report, so this act specially provides Gram Sabha, the traditional Gram Sabha of Adivasis tribals, has powers like our parliament and assemblies. So therefore, Gram Sabhas have right to determine forest rights, their self-rule rights, and customs and traditions practices, and control and manage those resources. So therefore, the 5th scheduled area also after PESA has got greater attention. So village traditional Gram Sabha is empowered. And whereas, but this provision is not made available to other parts of India, like where ITDPs are there, ITDA are there. So only facilities are given, welfare programs, development programs, education facilities, like that. But totally the self-determination right has been totally ignored. So they are part of general Gram Sabha, Gram Panchayat. So because of the different Panchayat Raj Acts after PESA, different Panchayat Raj Acts also have been amended, and the Gram Sabhas, particularly the Panchayat level Gram Sabha is practiced nowadays. But Act now really provides an opportunity to Ward Gram Sabha, that means traditional Gram Sabhas. They have a right to say what they want from the local bodies, like that. So though the scheduled area provision has not been given, High Court has after 10 years of discussion and all, the High Court has given us a very favorable order in 2009, and also the Constitutive Committee, this called Asadi Committee, to study the issue. What are the concerns? What are the suggestions government has to follow? So when the government agreed the report of the committee to implement, so the committee has submitted the report in August 5th, 2014. Since then, we are waiting. The rehabilitation package to be given to these many families. The High Court has recognized 3,418 families. They need to be given proper rehabilitation because their right to rehabilitation has been violated. Because of some reason, in the name of national interest, if they are displaced, they have to take the permission of the community, and they have to agree according to their wish, and an alternate livelihood resource needs to be created, forest to forest, things like that. But that has not been respected. So now the issue before us is, we have taken the issue to the government, court of law. The court has given us a verdict, good verdict, and state government is not yet taken it seriously to implement. So that means government is not caring for the laws existing in this country, which are helping tribals, and also the High Court orders also not been respected. What it means? Is it state-sponsored atrocity on Adivasis? Why is it state is that incapable to implement the High Court order? Is it a parliamentary law has not been respected? You see, in order to protect all these things, another move was moved with under the leadership of Dr. B.D. Sharma, who was the commissioner, SCST commissioner, and he was the Shillong University Vice Chancellor also. So he has written a lot of books, and he has written a book called Unbroken History of Broken Promises. That is how unbroken history of broken promises. That's how the Indian state has been, misguiding, cheating Adivasis from time to time, not respecting their rights. Fortunately, the Parliament constituted a committee, Buria Committee. That parliamentary committee studied traveled in all over India and presented a report. Based on the report, the PESA Act was enacted, Gram Sabha was given a power, and also the forest rights is their traditional rights. Forest rights is their traditional rights. Like other dominant society have their lands, ancestor lands. How can they get this ancestor? How can the non-tribal can get ancestor lands? Why not Adivasis? Adivasis ancestral lands are forest. So in order to respect the rights, or in order to provide an opportunity by removing the historical injustice done to Adivasis, the government of India in 2006 enacted the Scheduled Tribes Forest Rights Recognition Act, which is really good. But there has been a kind of pressure on by vested interest groups, vis-a-vis the wildlife groups. They want to change it. Not only wildlife group, maybe the land lobby, particularly mines lobby, because they will have to all these forest areas should come under traditional forest lands, should come under tribal control. So when the tribal communities have this control over these natural resources, and these lobbies cannot continue their business like that. So they are bringing pressure on the government to amend this Forest Rights Act also. And also some people some wildlife lobbies, they have filed a public interest litigation in Supreme Court, stating that whoever applications have not been respected in the district level committee and rejected their forest rights applications, those families should be removed from the forest. That is what the appeal has said. So Supreme Court also told the state governments, why are you keeping quiet? If those rights have not been respected, throw them out of the forest. Or if you want to respect their rights, deal with the applications properly. This instruction was given to the state governments. Now state governments have responded to the court, and they are now reconsidering all the applications filed by tribal communities through their Gram Sabhas, through their village forest rights committees, to sub-divisional forest rights committee and divisional forest rights committee. So like that, even Forest Rights Act also has not been respected. What it means? Wildlife Act is popular. Wildlife Act within a day they will implement. And Forest Rights Act 2006 and 2008, after the rules and all, it came into existence. And 2008 onwards, they were supposed to implement. And there was an amendment to in 2012 also for rules and other things. But since then, state governments are not in a position to facilitate properly the village forest rights committees, sub-divisional forest rights committees, and district forest rights committees to recognize the forest rights of Adivasis. So that means they are again facing problem. There are 3 rights in the Forest Rights Act. One is individual forest land rights for cultivation. Whatever method they have used, maybe thrash and traditional cultivations, not using bullocks or tractors, things like that. The traditional way of cultivating lands. Other rights are community rights. They have burial ground, they have worshipping places, they have MFP collection area, they are a living place, they are agricultural place. So entire area is called Jamma. This the traditional forest rights, called habitat in English. So habitat rights they have. So particularly the PTGs, the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, under Forest Rights Act Section 3(1)(e), protects their habitat rights. They have a right to their natural habitats. And those so many have been displaced from their natural habitats in the name of wildlife to implement the Wildlife Act and also Forest Act. Now the section 31M give protection to go back to their traditional lands for some reason, for due to state programs. If their traditional right has been taken away by the state, and they have the right to their traditional land or appropriate other lands like that. So these two sections have, while implementing the Forest Rights Act, totally ignored. All the applications have been rejected, illegally rejected, properly not provision, not on the provisions of the Forest Rights Act. That means Wildlife Act is important, but whereas PACE Act is not important, whereas Forest Rights Act is not important. What it means? Forest belongs to whom? Indian democracy is not belong to everybody. When you say the constitutional provisions, right to equality, right to decent life, where is it? Right to education, right to determination. Where are these rights? Constitutional provisions. So that means the state is incapable of implementing constitution. Sorry to say this word. It is because Adivasis are not raising their voice, because they are peace lovers and they want the system to function properly and respect their rights. They are still waiting. So that means the state governments and the central government should respect their rights which have been recognized under the constitution. So another problem is there now. According to a protective discrimination theory of Medicare, they have a right to reservation. The right to reservation has been totally misused. In India, there is a tremendous race for ST category. Several backward communities are racing for ST tag. That means initially in 51, 3% of Adivasis were given reservation facilities in Karnataka. Those days there were only 4 lakhs. I am giving a case study. In now, there are about 35 lakhs of people are under ST category. The same 3% reservation is there. And 15 MLAs have been, MLA positions have been declared as scheduled tribes, MLA constituencies. Not even a single constituency where tribals can contest. The dominant backward caste communities are getting all those 15 seats. So where is the political right? What happened to the provisions? So even reservations also there is a misuse. That's why the Professor Parathamma has studied this issue and brought out a book. We have published that. DEED has published that book. It's called Reservation, a Pie in the Sky. This book you should read. Reservation, a Pie in the Sky. She has studied as a Karnataka's case study, and several backward communities are making use of the tribal reservation rights. So they are entering from back door, or they are maybe central government or state government are openly declaring them under the scheduled tribes list. So like that, they are reservation also has been misused, and now we have demanded the internal reservation. Okay, if you want to include everybody as scheduled tribes in Karnataka who are asked for, okay, that is up to the state. Okay, but whereas our right need to be protected initially. Tribal communities have been given 3% reservation. Those initial reservations should be given to the original Adivasis, forest dependent tribes. So this is what your internal reservation you are claiming now, demanding. And the High Court committee has also said few words about this internal reservation. So they need to be government need to respect this this law, and also now recently because of the force from other communities. other backward communities who got into ST category. They are demanding for 7.5 reservation, like it is on par with Indian normal reservation for ST. So now there's a Nagmohan Das committee is there to study, and Nagmohan Das committee has Justice Nagmohan Das committee has submitted its report, and of course now we are hoping the government will consider for internal reservation, so that some of the seats will reserve for Adivasis. So like this, even reservation rights also have been totally ignored. So land rights ignored, forest rights ignored, and cultural rights have been ignored. Or ignoring all those things, they have been pushed to the corner. Like most of them are living in miserable conditions. It is like, unlike Central India or Central India or Northeast, the tribals in South India are very minute population. They are succumbed to. They are they have to face a lot of problems because they are less in number. And state governments are not really, not interested, or not, maybe some are interested, but sufficient attention has not been given. You think about the High Court order is given in 2009, and High Court government of Karnataka has agreed to implement. And based on the the High Court committee has submitted its report in 2014. So 6 years over, 3,418 families are still waiting for the reservation. So reservation rights also, the rehabilitation right also have been totally ignored. So that all displaced families for different reasons, either in the form of for national interest, like building dam or roads or national parks, all these families should be properly enumerated and studied properly, and provide rehabilitation package to all of those families. This is what the recommendation of the High Court committee report. This is what the state of Karnataka has agreed in the High Court. So this has not been done. That means the state is only interested in providing some food facilities in ashram schools and some education facilities in government schools, some special schools like that, but not respecting their traditional aspects, not even recognizing their languages. For example, the constitutional provision is to protect their tribal language dialect if population is more than 5,000. Whereas in Karnataka, the forest dependent tribes, prominent tribes, about 15 tribal groups are there, in forest dependent tribal groups. All of them have their dialect. Like Janukurbas have Kannada based dialect, and these Eruligas have Tamil and Kannada based dialect, and Malayalam based groups like Eravas, Pani Erava, Panjari Erava, the Malayalam based dialect, the Malayalam based dialect, and Bettakurbas, they call Kadukurbas. They have a mixture language like Kodava language, like Tulu language, and like the different languages. Like that, even like that, there are Tamil and Soliga language. It's their Kannada based. Like that, all the 15 tribal groups have their dialect, but none of the dialect have been given a prominence to develop books. For example, we tried an experiment with the Jain Kurba language, Jainu language. We developed this book called Jain Nudi Kaliyako. This is called Jain Nudi Kaliyako. So those that we prepared this with the help of State Resource Center and also Central Indian Institute of Indian Languages. And this is a quite interesting experiment. The similar thing can be taken up by the state and develop languages of these 15 communities and develop books and provide, introduce in the high school and primary school level. Maybe in the first year level, they can introduce 75% tribal language, maybe 100% first year, second year 50%, third year 25%, like that, fourth year 100% state language, like that, so that child can learn both state language as well as tribal language. So this is the kind of suggestions we have been given by publishing this book and also practicing it in the field. Similarly, when adult education program was going on, mass education program was going on, we introduced this book to adult education classes. So teaching the use the literacy and alphabets. See, they have a. This book is based on their life experience. The subject is known to them. The subject is known to them. Only they have to read and write, and also learn numericals, so that they can write their own stories based on their life history, life experiences. So the state government can really focus on developing these kind of books. This is what the United Nations said. Their education should be based on their life experience, their cultural ethos, their customs. So that what is important is they should read and write, whether English or Hindi, anything, any language, numericals. But knowledge is from their base. They should not forget their roots also. If you root them out, where do you take them? If you uproot them, where do you take them? How can they feel that they are, pride people? Why that pride people have been, what you call disregarded as, disrespected, when everybody has equal right to live, right to life. So, right to life is not respected. Right to resources is not respected. I want to quote here the Mahashweta Devi, who wrote on an Adivasi in West Bengal. She said, in the name of national interest, you want to protect forest for wildlife. Okay, we are doing it. What right you have got to take away their, right to life, right to resources? When there is no proper income or resource to sustain their life, how can they live? You do not have a right to take away their resources. You are not in a position to recreate the resources they want for their sustenance. So this again, maybe all over India, the writers have wrote about the tribal issues. So, but state governments are not respecting them. That means Adivasis are totally ignored, neglected. If some people raise their voice, their demand for rights, they will tag some unknown words. That's the problem. They cannot have any activism to protect themselves. So where else they go? Whom they will approach? Even though we have approached High Court, the High Court has given a very good verdict. Still, government is not implemented. Then we have to go against the government. Why you are not implemented? So, do you mean to say Adivasi have to do all these things to have a decent life as citizen of this country? So, particularly the Department of Social Work, when it teaches tribal development program for the MSW students, it's good. At least the Department of Social Work is considering as a special subject of tribal development. But that need to be strengthened further. It should include all constitutional provisions. We should United Nations declarations we should include. And what is fifth schedule? What is sixth schedule? What is PESA? What is Forest Rights Act? What need to be done? What is the role of state government? So these need to be properly introduced in the subject, so that at least some of these MSWs can work with tribal communities and what you call empower tribal women and tribal youths, so to take up issues. So even though the United Nations say the recognition of rights and resources should not have any discrimination. That means men and women both should have rights like that. That's something great with Adivasi community. So that need to be respected. What I meant to say, the constitutional provisions have been ignored. The United Nations declarations, though India is the party to the signatory, that has been ignored, and all the rehabilitation or existing laws under the Constitution, like Wildlife Act, provisions of the Panchayat Section Scheduled Areas Act, and Forest Rights, Scheduled Tribes Forest Rights Recognition Act. These acts have been totally ignored. This is not fair on the part of the governments. And apart from that, High Court PAL, it is waiting for implementation since 6 years. That need to be taken up. So if these things are done properly, and the internal reservation based on the population size, the internal reservation should be given. The Adivasi should enter into the parliament. Adivasi should enter into the assembly of government of Karnataka or any other state government assemblies, and at local level, Jila Panchayat, Gram Panchayat, like that. When this area is declared as scheduled area, like central India, like in northeast tribal area, they will have the provision for Panchayat Raj, Panchayat Raj institutions of their own, tribal Panchayat Raj institutions. In tribal areas, they will have, for example, in Karnataka, in 9 districts, we have tribal population. In about 1,500 tribal villages are there, it's called habitats. In 9 districts, in 32 taluks. So these habitats will have the opportunity for self-governance if the PESA Act is implemented and scheduled area is declared in these areas. But whereas to declare this area scheduled area, the other communities, non-tribal communities, are not cooperating, and forest department is not also responding. So that means the district administration or the tribal welfare department is not in a position to give leadership to Adivasi development, because they have no powers, no statutory powers. It's only they have a development agency or welfare agency. They have no powers. The tribal integrated tribal development officers, they don't have any powers, statutory powers. So they will have to almost like beg different departments to serve the tribals. So this is the state of affairs. So on the day of tribal indigenous people's day in St. Joseph College is respecting this subject and also briefing their students about tribal rights. It is very nice you have organized this webinar, and of course I'm just in the nutshell have said the provisions have not been respected, the rights have not been respected, the United Nations declaration has also not been respected. So that means only a kind of lip service in the sense they give some food, they give some clothes and some books, but in the schools, tribal children are not in a position to read and write Hindi, English or local language. The Hindi and local language are as foreign language as the English. For them, as their traditional language, their dialects. But the government is not serious thinking about providing education, primary education in their local language. So that is also important. Providing education in local language, it makes a lot of matter is there. So if you want to strengthen tribal community, develop tribal community, help them to develop their languages, teach their language in the primary classes, and later on up to 4th standard we can take up other languages like English, Hindi and the state languages, so that the child will cope up with both the languages, traditional language, state language, and also national language or international language. So we'll have to help in that way. Otherwise, if you just open a school and provide some books and clothes and for some food, child will get drop out after the 5th standard, 7th standard. The child is not in a position to cope up. It's what happening. For example, in Mysore district alone, there are about more than 100 schools are there. 100 schools are there in tribal vicinity, including ashram schools and all. About 600 children are nearly 6,000 children from 1st standard to high school. They are attending in different levels. For your information, nearly 2,000 children are dropped out. They have given up. Of course, now this due to corona issue, everybody is at home now. That is what many people are worrying. But there is no need to worry. But if parents are taught properly, they will help the children to learn their language, and start writing their language in the language they have learned from the schools. So that's also important. So they'll have to understand local situation now. They'll have to study, and these teachers have to help them to understand their village situation and forest situation, and what is government government is functioning. What kind of education they are providing at the school level. It is just food, providing food or clothes, or it is something beyond that. So what is the knowledge level? How their English is taught? How science is taught? How mathematics is taught? So these are very serious concerns. We conducted a survey as a pilot project. We adopted about 55 tribal government schools in tribal area, and conducted a program for about 5 years on quality education. So what means quality? What is the literacy level? What is the how they can do fare with mathematics? How they can understand science? How they understand sociology, like that? It's very strange. We got not even not even 3% kind of children can read and write English, and only 10% children can read and write Kannada, and science nil. So mathematics about 10%. Maybe they are good because they are dealing with they are in the forest. They have depending on their intellectual thing. So they are good in mathematics. But other things, science, mathematics, science, English, it's all problem. So when such is the situation, what is the children's fate? They will all become dropouts after SSLC 10th standard. Only few will go to the college. So what is the use of providing that kind of education then? So government has to think seriously in all this aspect: education, political power, social development, economic activities like providing forest lands and forest resources to them, and self-governance, things like that. When you are capable of involving all these things, when you are involving the community like this, then it has meaning. That's what Nehru said. Nehru Panchashila principles says about all these things. Do not force. Go according to the interest of the community. So that means the state is not really following the Panchashila principles adopted by Nehru in government those days. So that has been totally ignored. Okay, now situation is better when compared to another India I'm talking about. The Forest Right Act is there, PESA Act is there, and the High Court orders are some High Court's orders are there, and tribals are also now they have some awareness politically and this thing. They are in a better position to respond to the government if government is come forward to help them properly. So now what through this webinar, what I want to urge all of you and also to the governments and state governments and central government to take up tribal issues on priority basis. Do not ignore them. Do not ignore them. If you ignore, that means you are ignoring your own people, which is not good for India. If someone is good, if someone is not good, you can't call this as a full-fledged democratic country. And that's why my thesis is also focusing on this. Tribal administration, tribal local self-governance, how they administer themselves. If you adapt these methods to Indian democratic system, how our parliament can be much more improved. So can you think about study tribal cultural habitats, cultural aspects, administration aspects, their intelligence, their environmental knowledge, all these things if you consider, it's an asset to the country. You are not considering them as an asset. You are thinking them as a liability. They are not liability. You have taken their resources and calling them as liability. It is unfair. So what I urge through all of you, focus on Adivasi rights. That means you are focusing on Indian people's rights. So Indian democracy will get sharpened. So I want to thank all the friends who have listened to me. Though I am not a professor, but I am an activist. In the 40 years time, what all I have observed, what all I have done, and what approaches I adopted to approach legal courts and different officials and different governments. So with the tribal organization like Budakattu Krishikara Sangha and Vanvasi, the Tribal Women Association, and also the Tribal Youth Association and Cultural Association, these different tribal associations, we are what we call empowering process has been taken up. Now what we are thinking seriously now is, if we allow only government to function, they continue to function in the way they are functioning. But now with the tribal involvement, with education institutions involvement and activist involvement, we have to take it up the Tribal Forest Rights Act very seriously to get habitat rights as per Forest Rights Act Section 31E. And also Section 31M, they have got the right to rehabilitation. So who have been displaced for some reason, they have the right to rehabilitation. So this government has to focus on these two. So Forest Rights Act is there to help us, and that's a weapon actually. And High Court order is there, PL order, that's also a weapon. And the PESA Act is there, that's also a kind of weapon. So that we can go for a declaration of tribal scheduled area in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, West Bengal, and some of the states where they don't have scheduled areas and all. So like this, I request the academic institutions also, particularly social departments, to take up these tribal issues, and also those researchers also take up a lot of research and also start teaching tribal issues in universities. And thank you for all of you for having listened. And if you have any questions, please we'll answer. Otherwise, you'll have to find answers for yourself. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Srikanth, for wonderfully sharing with us your expertise. I'm very happy to know you as well as listen to you. In fact, for me, this is the first time that I'm listening to Dr. Srikanth as well, like many of you who are participating in the webinar.
Those who want to know about High Court order copy, I can share with you what is the order High Court has given, all these things, and maybe you can share with some of the persons who are interested in knowing what is the PL order and what is the High Court committee report and what are the suggestions. Very, very important suggestions they have made actually.
Sure, okay, sir. Sure. Thank you, sir. You actually highlighted much about the policies that we have in terms of political governance with the 5th schedule, 6th schedule, PESA, and the constitutional provisions that are provided to the 73rd constitutional amendment. Thank you for that. And you also highlighted about different acts, its reality and how it is all on the papers. Very specifically, you spoke a lot about tribal education, how it is culturally oriented. This session was very wonderfully made, and we thank you for that, sir. Now the floor is open for discussion. If there are any questions, the participants are requested to post your questions on the chat box. I think I've seen already there are few questions coming up. On the YouTube live streaming as well, the participants can start putting your questions on the chat box. Here at GMeet, we have Mr. Fawaz on the YouTube streaming, and here in GMeet I have Mr. Matthew, who shall be moderating this particular session. Over to you, Matthew. You can start posting the questions.
Thank you, sir. So okay, we have one question. So it's from William Pinto. He's asking that if you look at the present scenario, will there be any chance for the tribals to come up in their life? They are alienated from their precious land and its resources. They are discriminated, exploited from their rights and privileges. And if you see the NEP, they have no chance to come up in their life at what is taken on. No chance to develop their tribal languages. No scope for their indigenous knowledge and skills. Would you please share your views on it?
Yeah, I understand his concern. If you look at the scenario in the nation, naturally one feels like that. But the positive feelings we have is, as I said, the present act are the weapons. Only thing is, the people who are concerned about tribal issues should join them, help them, and also sharpen tribal welfare department and revenue department and also forest department to respect the rights of the Adivasis and also the concerned laws particularly Forest Rights Act, Wildlife Act. Wildlife Act also provides an opportunity to take decisions by the community itself. Adivasi lifestyle is not against wildlife, not against environment. They are living in harmony with the nature since several thousands of years, and they have a history. And nowhere in the history the tribals and forest animals and forests are separated. They had a symbiotic relationship with the nature, and they love elephant shouting, and they love some animals are swimming in the water. I mean, they're very, very important. Their life is also depending on that actually. So what department and government should think that wildlife protection only possible through forest department, it's a myth. It's a myth. Wildlife should be protected only by the involvement of the concerned communities, and like this habitat is for both. Forest is for animals as well as human beings, and it is not only for animals. So this has to be realized, and I request Matthew to take it up further, and also the MSW students who study these issues start writing to the governments. That's a contribution you can make. And don't. I have been working since 40 years. I have seen a kind of ray of hope. 40 years back, it was really a misery. Now there is a ray of hope. There is a ray of hope. Adivasi leadership is also coming up. Only thing is we have to help them time to time. So otherwise this act would not have come. So this is what I feel. It is possible. We should continue these efforts. Thank you, sir.
So thank you, sir. So we have another question from William Pinto, sir. He's asking, how do we educate the government on these matters?
Okay, everybody is bounded by the constitution and law. Nobody is above law, and nobody can misuse law also. We have to sue them also. We have several laws to protect the Adivasis also. That's what we have been trying. Atrocity Act is there. If someone is coming in between the way of getting our Forest Rights Act or Land Rights Act, we can sue them. But we have not taken that kind of position. So the law is there. If someone is coming, disturbing tribal land rights, we can. So educating, talking to officials on one-to-one basis, approaching the government and taking up lobbying and advocacy is very, very important. And also approaching the legal courts, like we have done PAL. And another plan, another PAL is also we are planning. For example, the forest people, after our struggles and all, they have started rehabilitating people who are in the forest. There are 53 tribal communities, 53 tribal villages in the Nagara National Park still. They want to rehabilitate by time after in over a period of time. So they will find resources to rehabilitate them, but they will not have time to rehabilitate people who have been displaced already. So we have to educate them also. Forest department, they have to educate. Tribal department, they have to give them little more power, and district administration should be given power. So advocacy and lobbying is also very, very important. That everybody who are listening today about Adivasi issues and situation, everybody can contribute. Whether any state you represent, you can approach your own courts, you can approach your own departments, and social department can take lead in facilitating these kind of issues. So advocacy and lobby is another instrument we have, and strengthening their CBOs, community-based organizations, because we cannot be the champions of Adivasis. So they will have to become champions of themselves. So that it takes some time. Otherwise, again, government will say something. Oh, we are instigating tribals like that. If you keep quiet, they are good. If they raise voice, they are bad. This is the attitude they have. And of course, government is like a donkey. If you make it function, it will function. If you neglect it, it will do in a way they want. So we have to be, as a citizens of alert citizen, we have to help the community, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have a question from Christopher. He's asking, how far are we from bringing to reality and indigenous policies and rights?
Okay. So, say about 40 years back, not even a single High Court order was there in favor of tribals. And PESA was not there. PESA Act was not there. And provisions of this, particularly the fifth scheduled area concept, was not popularized in southern India. And the Forest Rights Act was not there. A Buria Committee report was not there. And and also Panchayat Raj institutions, the Ward Sabha and Gram Sabhas were limited to only Panchayat level, not at the grassroots level. That has been in each state have enacted their Panchayat Raj Acts, and they have provisions for consulting and giving powers to determine certain things to the Ward Sabhas and the Gram Sabhas. So that means there is a lot of change legally in that sense. Only thing is attitudinal change of the officials. And see, government forest department is behaving as an owner of the forest department. They are not the owners. They are only caretaker. So caretaker should caretake animals, wildlife, vegetation, and human beings also. They are the caretaker of the forest. They should behave like that. They are not the owners. They cannot push the tribals out. So these kind of arguments we have to get into. For example, Dalits, because of Dalit organizations, because of Ambedkar projection, they are in a position to voice much nowadays. And Adivasis, whereas, for example, Birsa Munda struggle in Chotanagpur area, and other tribal leaders, Sidhu Kanu, because of their struggle, even now the tribals have hopes on forest rights. Their struggle is a kind of milestone to continue our struggle for land rights and forest rights. So the government officials need to be educated in these lines, and governments also to be tamed in that sense. When you file, for example, we were asked not to file the public litigation in 1999 against the government, against the forest department. He said no. For 5,000 families have been displaced, their life is miserable, we will file, because they have started jailing us. Actually, they have kept us in jail for about a week. We said, why to fight these people? Let us approach the court. Like that, there are several remedies. We have to approach the court. We have to bring in committees to study the report. The university should get involved and publish the report. We should bring in a lot of reports on injustice done to Adivasis. So this is one of the ways, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. A question from Raju Khilare. Is there any relation between Equal Citizen Act 2020 and tribal community?
So Article 371 clearly says no intervention from the state to disturb their cultural habitats, cultural ethos, customs, traditions and all. So the new act misinterpreted, and they're demanding, because they are the citizens of this country, they're first citizen in that sense, so they need to enumerate themselves. But they have the Gram Sabhas are there to correct them. Nobody can manipulate, or nobody can dictate. The Gram Sabhas are there. Whatever issues they will have to place before the Gram Sabha. A Gram Sabha will enumerate who are the members of this Gram Sabha, who are the right owners of the this forest area. So they will be in a position to help government, and the Gram Sabha will take it up, and their village council will help, and also district level autonomous council will help, and district level advisory bodies will help in scheduled areas. So there is a lot of check and balance. Nobody can humiliate tribals in the name of this new act.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Ms. Rikuti. what can be done in order to raise the awareness of tribes about their rights? Are they aware of it?
Yeah, what you have done, we are writing songs, we are publishing their own newsletters, using slogans by using their own language. For example, I will give you some examples. Nanga Kadu, Nanga Hadi, Nangave Alako. Is it Kurba language? Nanga Kadu, Nanga Hadi, Nangave Alako. We shall govern our forest and villages by ourselves. We have to develop slogans like this. This feels like a bijakshara. It's like it remain in them. Another word we said, Adivasigalu Bharatada Mula Nivasigalu. We the indigenous people of the first people of India. Another slogan. Like that, we have developed about 20-25 slogans to educate them. Written on wall writing was there, and boards have placed. So every Adivasi person will know about this. Started talking about this. We said self-rule is our birthright. Self-rule is our birthright. We said it in our language. So like this, the using slogans and developing and explaining these slogans and publishing in their own language, wall writings, publishing newsletters, using the media like TV media and print media, because they are bound to respect the tribal ethos. Whether any media, they cannot misinterpret tribal concepts. If somebody is misinterpreting tribal values, tribal culture and all, you can sue them. This is one of the UN provisions, United Nations provisions, respecting tribal ethos. Nobody can dishonor them. The media, the core area media like press media or print media or any other medias, they will have to respect, because we have to use them also. Some have a very positive feeling about Adivasis. For example, in Mysore, I will tell you, since 30 years we started using the media. We are using the media, and media has not misrepresented any tribal issue. They will come and study based on our reports. They will also talk to the tribal leaders and tribal community. They write nice stories. And because of their media support, there was no MLA, there was no MP to support us. Only media helped us, and some good officials helped us. So in Mysore district, out of 6,000 and 10,000 families in Mysore district, 4,000 families have at least half an acre land, 1 acre land, because of this land struggle. And about 5,000 families have filed application for forest land rights. Now they have filed habitat forest rights, community forest rights. So it is possible. It is possible. We have to take up these lines and try educating tribals is possible. We have written a lot of songs. We teach songs from children to the youngsters. Wherever we have Sangha meetings, we sing these songs first and shout some slogans. So these are the education methods, and also whatever cases we have filed, we brief them. So we are all well informed, and we take a lot of like you MSW students, you are starting some skits, selecting some issues, preparing some skit, present the skits before the community, like that. So many methods you have to use to educate them, and they very nicely they grab. Only thing is they need support. They should not be punished. Just giving a support, and if you escape, then they will be the system will crush them. So we have to have long-standing support to Adivasi to raise their voice for their rights. It is possible, sir. It is possible, and it has yielded the result actually. Then tribals themselves started writing some songs on forest rights. For example, I will tell you in Ee Kaadu Ee Naadu Namanadu. Ee Kaadu Ee Naadu Ee Namanadu. Hettayya Ajjayya Bittu Hoda Naadu. Like that, there are a lot of songs are there. So that means that talks about history. They talked about the forest resources. They talk about their wisdom, and by that not only rebuilding their history, and they are visiting their habitats, and they are taking the witnesses whatever available in the forest, and building those witnesses to file cases and also applications in the Forest Rights Act. So we have to, I mean, I feel the non-tribal friends who are very, they like assisting Adivasis should help them. That's very important. This kind of help is very, very important, is meaningful. But there are people who are diverting their forces by introducing liquor. For example, when they go for kuli, they are not just giving kuli, they will give liquor also. They pollute them. They destroy their mind. So they will destroy their family peace. That is also there. This is unknowingly, these kind of things are coming in now. So we have to educate all these things, sir. So if tribal communities, if they have traditional drink, it is fine. If they become addictors to the government produced liquor, then they will lose rights. So helping Adivasis on sustainable basis is one of the methods to help them to write the language and literature pertaining to their issues. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your response, sir. A question from Mr. Kuriakos Jacob. Does ignorance of tribal native language stands as a barrier for education of tribes?
Actually, it is a barrier because child has knowledge of its environment. Mother, when the child read the lesson at home by using the state-sponsored lessons, mother cannot understand anything like that. One child also just simply repeat it. It will not understand the meaning. But if at the primary level, if the tribal language is used for the classes, and if the child is at home, if they start reading at home their lessons in the tribal language, parents can understand. If there is any mistake, they can correct. They will they will join, they will help. They will re-guide the child. So like the other communities in dominant communities, when the child read their lessons, they will understand because it concerns about their lifestyle. But no lesson is developed based on the tribal culture, tribal ethos, tribal resource base, and tribal administration. So this is very, very urgent and important. That is what we said in our book on Jenu de Kaliako. Jenu de Kaliako is very, very useful and helpful. And government is seriously thinking now. Only thing is you have to bring lot of pressure. The government, as I said earlier, this is the donkey. The donkey has to be, motivated to work or pushed to work. Okay, sir.
So thank you, sir.
Tribal language matters a lot.
So one more question. I think it's the last question. It's from Preeti Shanti. Are there efforts to network tribal people movements with Dalit movements and other mass movements for a greater struggle for justice and equality?
Yeah, a good question. I see in Delhi, we made two communities, the tribal communities and Adivasi communities, to come together to raise voices, particularly for forest rights. For forest rights for both. Those who are living in the forest, either Dalits or backward community or Adivasi, all of them have rights. So those who have completed 75 years in forest, they have the right, non-tribals I'm talking about. So we kept keeping this in mind, Adivasis and Dalits and other backward communities, we came together at the Delhi level and under the, using Ambedkar photo and Birsa Munda photo and Narayan Guru photo, like things like that. We made an effort that has that has given some results, and we are at the state level also. We have a tribal network called Rajya Mulanivasi Vedike, Rajya Mulanivasi Budakattu Janara Vedike, which is supported by some interest groups who are working with Adivasis. So that network is there, and at each taluk level, they have in Mysore and Kodagu and what you call Chikkamangaluru, they have Budakattu Krishikara Sangha, tribal people's organization, and Girijan Mahila Sangha they have. In Chamarajnagar, they have Soliga Abhiruddhi Sangha, and in Ramnagar, those areas, Ramnagar those areas, the Soliga Shoya Abhiruddhi Sangha. Like that, they have their own association in 9 districts at the taluk level, at the same time at the district level. So they have a network. They meet once in 3 months. They share these issues. We have, because the tribal struggle since 40 years have not got any negative what you call tags, like calling Adivasis or Naxalites, because our fight was more democratic and more it's just kind of peaceful, and non-violent direct actions were there, and a lot of pressure building and lobbying and all. This helped a lot. So this network will help not only what you call harvest their total power. It is also help them to educate properly, and they are responding well. Their social leadership is emerging now. There are about maybe more than 100 leaders who talk about the tribal issues now. Otherwise, the attention would not have come like at this level now. One thing is now nobody has gone to assembly because there are no money to contest, because all the political parties are going for money based and also community caste based politics, and Adivasis are not in the position to contest. This is one of these at least they have 15 assembly constituency, but all those are except two, every other reservation is gone to non-tribal area. This means scheduled tribes area is gone, Nayaka and other communities. So we will have in the future, we have to make an effort in these lines also. So yeah, there are ways, there are means. We have to help. And tribal leadership is possible through networking. And networking has helped a lot. And they are in contact with district administration, the local officials, local welfare officers and tribal officers. So each one of them, they have their contacts. They have, some of them started using WhatsApp, Facebook, and this in the social media also they started using. They really in a way about 100 youths are now really making an effort, and we have also made an effort to respect to the government. In a year, every state should have at least 100 tribal youths should be properly trained in using this social media, computer knowledge, and also this internet knowledge, and developing data and the community data, raising issues through internet. For example, now since 6 months, there's no other media except the social media who could able to share these thoughts with the deputy commissioner, forest department officials, tribal officers. So this is a request for the central government, particularly tribal welfare department, to take up train the at least 500 to 600 youths every year in these lines, so that social media also can be properly made use of. This is a power also. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Matthew, and thank you, Fawaz, for helping us with the question and answer session. Thank you.
I also thank all those friends who asked the questions, and these questions are very important, and it shows their concern. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Srikanth. I now invite Ms. Rupika Nair to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. We must always find time to stop and thank the people who make a difference. Good evening to all the participants. I am elated to propose the vote of thanks for day 2 of our webinar on the theme, the status of indigenous communities in India. To start off, I would like to thank our speaker for the day, Dr. Srikanth, Director of Deed Hansur, Karnataka, who shared his expertise on tribal rights and constitutional provisions. Sir, you highlighted on the tribal problems that are very much existing in our society, questioning the government of its own written policies, safeguard measures, and their idea of development. As social workers, a good learning that we can take back is the importance of tribal culture and how language is the key to their real upliftment. On behalf of the Department of Social Work, St. Joseph's College, I thank you for taking the time and effort to share your knowledge in this platform. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I take this opportunity to thank all the participants, faculty, my fellow students from our department and other departments as well. Also, a special thanks to all the people who asked the questions. Despite all your busy schedules, you all took the time to listen and learn. I can't forget to thank our Rector, Father Swabat, Principal, Father Victor Lobo, and our Vice Principal, Dr. Rabai. Oh yes, before I could conclude, I request all the participants to fill the feedback form for which the link has been put in the chat box. Thank you again, have a great evening. And do not forget to log in, join us tomorrow at 3 p.m. for our next session. Thank you.
I also thank the college and also the persons who are participated in the webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Great.
Thank you so much once again, Dr. Shrikant. Thank you. You really did justice for what you were called for. We are very happy, and for sure in the future we'll be collaborating with you as well, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
We thank all the participants. You had sent us a feedback yesterday about the network connectivity issue. I hope today it was sorted out, and I think we'll continue the same platform tomorrow as well. Just that we are also learners here, and we too agree that we as learners, we are also picking up from our mistakes.